Pochi. Bearing in mind that this is the newly very liberal democracy that we've brought into place. Although that's liberal from the economic sense as opposed to the social issues sense. Economically liberal, as in privatization, as in capitalism, as in free trade. Okay, Sindrin contributed 27,000 channel points. Thank you very much for that, Sindrin. Voting for only males came in with a measly 13%, as it should have been. And then 87% voted that we should have female suffrage. So we shall do so. Boop. And we will now need to choose a different focus. So 60 deputies from the Turkish nationalists would leave if we did that. It's a long time before our next election, so this is the time to piss off the other deputies. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to break up the state monopolies. We definitely can't afford this one yet. Okay, break up the monopolies. Although the HIF primarily pushes for a liberal agenda in the social sense, it's no stranger to its economic ideas, and believes that the large state monopolies set up by the CUP and OHF the last few decades have seriously hampered the economic growth of the Ottoman Empire. Stifling competition and innovation, the government now pushes for privatization of these monopolies in an attempt to stimulate the free market. It's kind of interesting they have to balance this against the Conservatives. Baghdadi students protest difficult maths questions. A couple of schools in the city of Baghdad have bonded together in pursuit of a common enemy: maths. That's a group I would join. In some places, even supported by their teachers, close to 100 students have come out in the city streets to protest against the difficulty of their mathematics exams, which are enforced under the national curriculum. It's not the first time this has happened in Baghdad, and it's unlikely to be the last, so the Education Ministry is ignoring their demands, claiming they're just lazy students who should stop wasting time protesting and instead devote that time to their studies. Down with maths, up with not maths. Loser stability. And we can now grab improved machine tools. Let's get the industrial stuff done. Serbia crowned King Alexander II since the end of the Austrian occupation during the 1920s. Serbia has officially been a kingdom. They never dared crown a king as they were forced to keep a low profile in the light of further Austrian aggression. Petar Bojovic, the regent of Serbia for almost 2 decades and a known royalist, has now decided to restore the monarchy. Alexander II, the son of the former King Peter I, has accepted the crown and was today crowned as the King of Serbia. This controversial move is likely to upset the Austrian and Bulgarian governments. Regent or king? What's the difference? We have arrived in San Francisco. So we can now do a couple more things. Revert the social reforms, which will increase authoritarian democracy and social conservatism but drop our stability, which I don't much like. Elevate the Arab language. Will piss off the Turkish nationalists, but I think they're already pissed off. You shouldn't be able to do these if you don't have enough deputies to actually switch over. Because they already really hate us. So yeah, I think we're going to go ahead and elevate the language. Yeah, do it. Okay. How are we doing for the resistance? Oh! Actually, really well. Has our colour changed? No. We just had ourselves selected. Democracy prevails in the Philippines. Oh! I know what I was going to do. Dumbass. My armies have arrived. We're going to go the offensive guy. Democracy prevails in the Philippines. Having just achieved independence from the United States, the Philippines face today perhaps one of the most serious challenges any new country could face. Inspired by the combined syndicates of America and the Bharatiya Commune, disgruntled army officers marched on Manila to support the rebelling peasants and workers. Do I want you lot? Probably down here in the south. Yeah, let's go for Tucson. Their attempt was quickly thwarted as loyalist units in the army reaffirmed their support for and intervened in favour of the legitimate democratic Filipino government and drove the rebellious army out of the capital, ending the threat of syndicalist coup before it could even begin. Barzani insurrection in Iraqi Kurdistan. The Barzani tribe is fighting back against the growing loss of power in the empire as a coordinated offensive by Ottoman army and air force has slowly been pushing them out of the territories towards Iran. The Barzanis, led by the charismatic Mustafa Barzani, have long been fighting against the Porte, who has in recent years been responsible for the death of both his father, grandfather, two brothers in failed insurrections over the last few decades. Combined air power was responsible for the bombardment of dozens of villages in a land offensive by the army, however seems to now be breaking the final resistance of the sheer force of the modern arsenal brought by the Padishah's finest is overpowering what little resistance could still be offered. Other Kurdish tribes, long rivals of the Barzanis, have also granted support to the form of irregulars to the Turkish forces in the hopes of acquiring their lands once the rebels have been firmly put down. So we gain stability. Our stability is actually skyrocketing. Which is good. How is our nation stability? Stability of the realm, minus 13. It used to be like minus 26, so we are getting better. Then the other thing we need to do is bring in the Air Force, so we can bring in up to 24 aircraft. We may as well just bring in the tactical bombers then. Mark Leake declared war on Tibet. Meanwhile, the ships of the desert have almost arrived. And we'll go and take out all of this. Maybe not all of that. Maybe up to here. And then we'll backfill to Phoenix. Then maybe we'll go and grab up to Santa Fe. And backfill this. And we should be a heck of a lot faster at moving than these guys are. Have I been centralizing authority in each province slowly over time? I've not like made any specific independent moves. There have been no clicky buttons for me to press, for example. At least I think so. I haven't not been checking. Yeah, we gain political power really slowly, so I definitely want to marshal and keep as much of it as we can. Sichuan Clique declared war on Tibet. Paraguay declared war on Argentina. The Chilean-Argentinian War. Tensions have been running high between the two regional powers for years now as the ideological differences drove the nations further and further apart. Support by Chile for the FOP in Patagonia and the incapacity of Argentina to quell the rebellion have finally come to blows as a joint offensive by the Argentinian army and Armada was met with heavy resistance in the Rio Negro, with Chilean forces opening fire on the advancing Argentinian troops. Always left to the mercy of rain, Tripolitania has suffered from an especially bad year which has caused havoc in the harvests. The steady population growth of the last 2 decades has only exacerbated the situation as relief from Greater Syria and Anatolia is unable to fully cope with the crisis. Reports from Cyrenaica and Fezzan indicate that the issue is less severe there, as the Green Mountain seems to have been mostly spared. With agricultural exports of the nation, its main source of revenue, now almost entirely gone, the government in Tripolitania has requested a decrease in taxes and further assistance from the Ottoman centre. So it is our duty to help, or there is nothing we can do for them. Bearing in mind that we did already send troops to Fezzan, so we are already investing in that region. So let's take a look at the possible options, namely known as a poll. And vote. Get your votes in. Vote, vote, vote. Should we send assistance or should we not? Meanwhile, U972163, thank you very much for the follow. Error90, thank you for the follow. Welcome to the channel. And then Evil Snowball wants me to drink some tea. Well, alright then. Help them now, exploit them later. I mean, that seems reasonable. Alright, so how is the poll turning out? Well, it has in fact ended. And it is rather one-sided again. So, Bob, thank you very much for the 4,000 channel point investment. Nothing we can do. Got a measly 9% of the vote, meaning that it is our duty to help overwhelmingly came in with 91. That is going to cost us a bunch of political power. But hopefully we will be able to gain something from the sacrifices we have collectively made. Paraguay declared war on Bolivia. Okay. As long as we get this river, I'll be pretty happy. And state monopolies have almost been broken up. And it doesn't look like I need martial law in Bahrain anymore. We can do civilian oversight everywhere except for Bahrain, which I think needs to be secret police. Okay, maybe one more. Military governor, that'll do you. Then we are already on civilian oversight here in Cyprus. And everywhere else we've sorted. No further resistance, which is pretty good. Quite happy with that. Hey, Miss Dunny, how are you doing? 3 clicky buttons above some of the states. I haven't seen any of those actually. Oh no, they are available now. Increase tax burden. Or loosen the tax burden. Oh, this is how we can get conservatives. Interesting. See, most of those clicky buttons just weren't available previously. I mean, this is probably something we want to do in the run-up to an election. Privatization of the state monopolies formed in large part during the Attacist period between 1920 to 31. Much of our nation's economy rests in the hands of a few large state companies. As this goes against liberal principles and ruins the possibility for private initiative, the Chamber of Deputies has today voted on their abolition and privatization of the market. The question remains, however, to what degree should we open this up to foreign investors, as many fear that by ceding control, vital parts of the Ottoman economy could once again fall into the hands of the Western powers to the detriment of our own people. To remedy this potential threat, they propose that only investors with Ottoman nationality can partake in the process, and that foreign companies willing to invest in the market are obliged to utilise Ottoman manpower. So the free market will not be opposed, will give us an off-map civilian factory, drops our stability, increases authoritarian democracy, syndicalism and radical socialism, or tread carefully will gain us some stability and also lose some authoritarian democracy, which will in turn strengthen the liberals a little. But also, if we want to believe in free market economics, then free market should not be opposed. So it depends how liberal is liberal. Which is a bit weird that it's this way around. I would actually have expected the authoritarian democracy to be here. And then just have a whole bunch, like syndicalism and radical socialism I can kind of get. And then like every other ideology except for the liberal ones should, including the liberal ones, just everything should be free market. Except for the authoritarian Democrats. Maybe national populists too. Right, new poll. This is going to be private. That doesn't look right. Privatization. And then we got free market versus tread carefully. And that's tread, not thread. Although if you thread carefully, then that probably would have the same effect. And vote. Get your votes in. Vote, vote, vote. When has privatization ever gone wrong? Oh, absolutely never. Definitely no selling of state stuff to cronies or anything. Not here. So this is giving us more max factories and state construction speed and consumer goods. Oh, increasing consumer goods. Whereas if we took this, we would get research speed, production efficiency, base, and growth. Ooh. Well, that's kind of nice. I think I might start on this. The concept of private initiative, or tsabusis usasi, serves most predominantly in the discourse of Sarahatin, whom has identified its lack as one of the main reasons of the Ottoman decline. Based on the ideas of Demirel, the vizier pleads for looking for achievement in yourself and self-confidence, and not relying on family or the state, supporting the notion of private ownership as crucial to the social and economic development of the empire. Okay, so tread softly and carry a big gun has beaten out the free market. Is that good business though, chat? Is that really good business? Let us thread carefully here. We gain stability, we lose authoritarian democracy. So we are rather more stable as a result. And Whitey is here contributed 7,000 channel points to that as well. So thank you very much for that. Whitey is here. I really should play Democracy one of these days. And actually try to create a functioning government. I'd be curious about how that would work. Okay, private initiative is going. And let's go. Because there are some things which I think the state should be responsible for. Monopoly on violence, law and order, infrastructure, education and healthcare. Like the 5 pillars of government, I think, are those. Lost Voyage of the Gul Diemal. Built in 1874 by Harland and Wolff in Belfast, the originally nicknamed Germanic is one of the best-known ships in the Ottoman Empire. Starting a journey under the Ottoman flag in 1910, she provided postal services to the Black Sea region until the start of hostilities in 1915. Afterwards, the ship served with great distinction as the ammunition and troop transport until she was torpedoed by the British Navy. She is, however, best known for the operations in the Aegean after the fall of Greece, the repatriation of many Turks to the Dodecanese, and for being the first Ottoman vessel to reach the shores of America in 1921, where she proudly showed a Turkish flag. Despite her admirable feats, however, the ship started to show its age, and after 53 years of service, she is now embarked on the final voyage to Taranto, where she will be scrapped. We are grateful for your service. Now, stability is all the way up to 62% now. Oh, whoops. You know what I haven't done? Really need to keep an eye on this guy. Otherwise, bad things could happen. Let's actually go that way around. I think that would be a better idea so we can take more of the front line. The Iraqi question. The vilayets of Iraq, Mosul, Baghdad and Basra have long proven difficult to govern efficiently as due to the limited authority in the walis, relying far too much on the direct orders from the capital and the abysmal revenues. To solve part of these issues and establish a stronger rule over the border provinces throughout the 19th century, multiple requests for the merger of the vilayets into a larger Iraqi unit were refused time and time again to avoid creating a power block that could threaten the central government. In 1926, however, with the collapse of the British Empire and the re-annexation of Basra and Kuwait, the vilayets of Basra and Baghdad would be united and placed under the discretion of a single wali. Under Yushin al-Hamishi in 1928, the Mosul wali will furthermore be placed under the command of the Baghdadi Colleague, with a Sulaymaniyah region inhabited by the Sunni Kurds separated. With most of Iraq brought under such central command structure, many question what is supposed to happen to it now that the Vilayet law has been revised. Some argue it should remain a singular block to provide a stable frontier against the Persians, while others believe that due to its relatively large and diverse population, it should be split into a Sunni and Shiite part, both with their own provincial assemblies. The question of the Assyrian people in Basra also remains a store point. Separating them into a separate entity would please the Assyrians, but lead to issues with the large Shiite population. So, we can go with Sulaymaniyah, Mosul, Baghdad and Basra, which is everything split up, which will piss off Mosul and Baghdad but give us some political power. We can go for 3 power blocks, which will just piss off Mosul but give us less political power. We can say that Mosul and Baghdad are separated, but that gives us the least political power. We can just say one giant Iraq, which will actually give us a bunch of Arab nationalists joining the coalition, though we don't actually need that, because they are fully supporting us. And that would lose us a bunch of political power as well. So, one united Iraq is probably the worst option. The other 3 are a bit more interesting. So we're going to go split 4 ways. Split 3 ways. I'm not typing out all of these names individually. Split 2 ways. Unified Iraq. And vote. Get your votes in. Wait, she was carrying ammunition but survived a torpedo hit. That's impressive. Actually, yeah, Silas, that's... It was quality Ottoman ammunition. Doesn't explode. Very safe. Not very useful in a war, though. That's a good point, though. Yeah, if you were torpedoed carrying ammunition and survived... Damn. See, I don't know what this is actually going to do, because they're still part of the nation. I think it's just going to be determining, like, political power versus unrest. Like, if you split it massively, then you get big unrest, whereas if you don't, then you just lose political power. I don't think this is actually creating independent nations or anything. I think. I don't know for sure. Okay, splitting it 4 ways. So you're going to piss off Mosul and Baghdad, but give me 20 political power. Mastani contributed 12,000 channel points. Thank you very much for that. So splitting it three ways came in last place with 3% of the vote. Unified Iraq came in third place with 28. Split two ways came in second with 32. And then splitting four ways with 37. So we'll split it the four ways. Hey, Magpie. So 228 support now. Arabs fully support us. Turkish nationalists are fully against us. It's mostly the conservatives. I'm wondering if we want to revert OHF social reforms. Oh, that's the authoritarian Democrat. So they are fairly progressive. I don't know that we necessarily want to do this. This would increase authoritarian Democrat popularity, even though it's reverting their reforms. And social conservatism also goes up. It loses us stability. No, I don't think I do. Trouble seems to once more be amok in the Balkans, as the Balkan nations once again have gathered in opposition to the Bulgarian hegemony in the region. Although part of the same alliance as us during the Weltkrieg, there is no love between ours and their government, and we are perfectly aware of their designs on Erdene and Constantinople. The Serbs, for now, haven't invited us to their alliance, but the likelihood of war on our western border is increasing by the day. Preparations are being made to reinforce the fortresses of Erdene, and our troops have been placed on high alert for any actions by the Bulgarians. Whether or not we'll get sucked into the war once more is unclear for now, but the ravaged Anatolian population, our recruitment pool, is not fully recovered from the Weltkrieg. So I think I am gonna go and prepare some troops. We'll go with the artillery boys, as they're kind of our backup, and we'll go for this. And that's exactly 5 provinces. So we could probably do with sending a couple of infantry. 1, 2, 3, 4, say 5. The Second Internationale, the first Syndicalist Internationale held in Paris, dealt with the spreading of the ideology overseas, supporting the syndicalist movement and strengthening the ties between existing syndicalist nations. And thanks to the gathering success, the Second Internationale has been called to be held in London. Representatives from the entire world were greeted by a British artillery salute, a Scottish bagpipe chorus, and an overall warm reception. As Europe rolls closer and closer to war, military and economic cooperation between the syndicalists is expected to be the primary topic of discussion, with France and Britain once again calling the shots of the internationalist policy. And yes, I do need to go and keep an eye on you. Yeah, we're doing good. Greece has joined the Belgrade Pact. The future of Ottomanism. Ottomanism, or the idea that all citizens identify with a shared Ottoman identity above their regional subgroups such as Turk, Arab, etc., has been one of the most influential ideas within the empire since the early 19th century. Far before the Young Turks took control of the constitutional revolution, the Young Ottomans were a group of reformers in the latter half of the 19th century that attempted to foster this identity, bringing in it the solution to the rise of nationalism amongst their subjects. The idea in practice, however, remained mostly unsuccessful, as the various Christian groups never accepted it as their own, and pan-Islamism turned out to be a far more effective way to keep the Arabs and the Kurds in check. The subsequent loss of massive swathes of Ottoman territory, starting in the 1870s, further caused great harm to the ideal, as well as the losses incurred during the First Balkan War. The Christian group found itself greatly reduced. The idea at first held tightly by the Young Turks quickly lost prominence as in its place nationalism arose. Greek nationalists, Armenian nationalists, Arab nationalists, and even Turkish nationalists all had conflicting opinions on the future of the empire, and through their actions the hopes of the Ottoman identity, free from the religion, have been almost completely shattered. Nevertheless, the idea had never disappeared, and with the Young Turks shifting more and more towards Muslim nationalism, the liberal opposition used it as their counter-proposal to ever stricter policy. With Prince Sabahattin now in charge, the idea has returned to the forefront, as his ideas of a heavily decentralized empire went to encourage want to encourage a unified Ottoman identity above regional identification. Whether this policy is realistic, though, is far less certain, as many important sociologists have pointed out that the turning point has already been crossed, and that a radical change in education policy to account for this identity would run opposite to the idea of a decentralized policy. Interesting. See you, sadist.